When did Swiss Monkey save my life? I used to have two practices, one in Livermore, my main office here. COVID hit, and when we thought we were going to all be closed down for a week or two, I was stressed out. And then it turned out we were closed for much longer than that. And unfortunately, like many practices, when we came back, most of my staff left. I was in trouble. I was in trouble because I literally did not have a staff. We had patients calling. We're ready to come back. Let's schedule a recall. At the time, there's a lot of insurances that were holding payments. So we just had this deluge of phone calls and recalls that were 3 months due. And now we're trying to figure out how to get everybody in, and we're trying to stay in business. And I literally was at the point where I was going to have to just close the doors. Swiss Monkey, they came in and literally just took over. My name is Dr. Joshua Solomon. I'm a second generation pediatric dentist, and my practice is located in Livermore, California. Along with my practice, I also have an integrated teaching center, the BioClear Pediatric Learning Center. I moved in the new facility about a year and a half ago, so we're in 6,000 square feet. I have approximately about 20 employees between the learning center and my practice. We have 13 ops. I have an associate and an orthodontist that I work with. We have doctors that fly in from all over the country to come take courses at the learning center. When did Swiss Monkey save my life? I used to have two practices, one in Livermore, my main office here, and then I had a second practice that my dad started years ago. It was associate-driven practice, and everything was going great until it wasn't. COVID hit, and when we thought we were going to all be closed down for a week or two, I was stressed out, and then it turned out we were closed for much longer than that. And unfortunately, like many practices, when we came back, most of my staff left. These were long-term employees. We had spent considerable amount of time training, both in the front and back. So I went from having a fully staffed office to one person up front and one-ish person in back. And this is a large pediatric practice, right? It's been in operation for 40 years. And I'm not there every single day, right? Because I'm in my main office here in Livermore. And when we got the nod to come back and open, I was in trouble. I was in trouble because I literally did not have a staff. We had patients calling. We're ready to come back. Let's schedule a recall. At the time, there's a lot of insurances that were holding payments. So we just had this deluge of phone calls and recalls that were 3 months due. And now we're trying to figure out how to get everybody in, and we're ready to practice. And I'm trying to stay in business because we were closed for 3 months. I had almost no staff. It was panic mode. Then I'm dealing with all these regulations with COVID and masks and everything else. I literally was at the point where I was going to have to just close the doors because I couldn't operate a busy pediatric dental office and nobody to help. I was using a consultant at the time. They said, we need to talk to Swiss Monkey. First, I said, what is Swiss Monkey? I thought it was like a coffee brand or something. It quickly became a client, and they came in and literally just took over. All the calls would roll over to Swiss Monkey because I only had one person up front. And not only were they doing the front desk, they took over my entire revenue cycle. I didn't even have enough people to deposit checks. I mean, that's how bad it was. We had money sitting around, but nobody to put it in the bank. Not only did they take that over, but the insurance specialist that they had working with me had a huge amount of experience with pediatric offices. She was able to see where we were not billing things correctly. There were some codes that we were using that we were getting a lower reimbursement on. There were things that we weren't billing that we should have. And because this was a satellite practice for me, my profit margin was not anywhere it would be as my main office. And so not only did they get my checks deposited, they got my checks posted, they answered the phones, they took over all of my recall calls, they took care of new patient calls. And if it wasn't for the fact of bringing them in, I would have had to close the office. I mean, that's not me being catastrophizing the situation. I was really at that point and nobody wanted to work. I was trying to interview and see patients, just couldn't do it. They took over the complete revenue cycle. We got 2 extra computers, so they were remotely logged in and sitting in front of my EagleSoft. You know, when patients would call, they wouldn't know the difference between calling my physical office and Swiss Monkey's offices in Sacramento. They were doing everything besides cleaning teeth. They helped me find staff. They were doing interviews for me. And they were vetting people too, because just couldn't find anybody. At that time, we were getting a lot of people that had no dental background. So they did all of that vetting for me, and they did all the initial interviews. They did the background checks, and then we got candidates quality. candidates. They were able to pick up the phone during lunch times and also after hours. So that's a big thing. People are used to Amazon now. I want to order paper plates and get them delivered in 3 hours. And so people's brains have become reset on when they should be able to receive service. They would pick up the phone when we were at lunch. When we were closed for the day, they would pick up the phone. And what I noticed was an uptick, and they paid for themselves. People were able to reach the practice, especially new patients. We know that just for marketing dollars, it's hundreds of dollars per patient. And people don't want to wait. Even if you have an amazing practice, they will call, and if they can't reach one office, they're going to call the next office, especially busy parents. If you have 3 kids screaming in the background and you're just trying to find a place to see your children, parents don't have time to wait. They would immediately take that intake and they would get the insurance information. The other thing that I really appreciated is Nordstrom experience that I couldn't offer because we didn't have enough time to train people. The scripting and the professionalism on the phone was really something that I'd never really even taken the time to, and I had great staff, but they were already trained for all those things. And just instead of calling and saying, Dr. Solomon's office, it was, this is a great day in pediatric dentistry. My name is Susan. You've called Dr. Solomon's office. How can I help you? And that makes a big difference. If people are greeted with respect and kindness and that enthusiasm in their voice, then they want to schedule. They didn't even think about any of this stuff. They just did it. And that's why all these years later, anytime Swiss Monkey asks me to give a testimonial, I always will, because they got me out of a jam and they helped me to build that practice. I wound up just getting too busy in my main office and teaching, so I sold that office, but I was able to sell it when it was packaged. We had employees, we had systems in place, we were using the correct billing codes. AR was great, so they were able to help me put systems in place. And the other nice thing is they have messaging built in, so my staff was just messaging on the back end, back and forth, and everything was predictable and accountable. Teach practice management, I think I know what I'm doing, but it's always helpful to have somebody else there, have an extra eye, especially if it's a satellite practice. So for those doctors that are entrepreneurial, that are wanting to, build that second, third, fourth, fifth practice, I wouldn't do it any other way besides outside help, because these days we have people coming in with no dental experience. Oh, I want $40 an hour. Okay, well, you just worked at Foot Locker. I'm sure you're a great person, but you're going to need a little bit of training in order to work in a dental office. The thing about Swiss Monkey and the team that I had there, nobody called in sick. I didn't have to pay 401k. I just paid for what I needed. And that allowed me to scale that practice up. And if I was doing this again, if I had 2, 3, 4 offices, the first thing I would do is call Christine and Swiss Monkey and say, I want to put a call center in place. I need some dedicated people, because then I have them training the staff on doing what they do best. And they can take over revenue cycle, they can take over insurance, they can take over all those things, and it more than pays for itself. I didn't waste my time with people that had no dental experience. I need people that are safe. I need people that have the ability to communicate properly and that parents feel comfortable with and can work in a big team. I went to a practice management seminar, and I think they said every time you lose a key employee, front or back, the cost to the practice is upwards of $20,000. That's not just not having a team member, but it is losing someone that you've trained, someone that patients feel comfortable with. Because if you have this revolving cycle, people know that that may not be a great place to work. Another thing that really dropped my anxiety level when it was already high during COVID, I would literally get an email every single day. I didn't even know how they timed to do this, but it would list all the phone calls they made that day, all the new patients that called in, all of the checks they had posted, my production and my collection. So as someone who was working, I would literally just check my email and it would have everything they did that day, which is in much greater detail that I'm even getting now. Now I think about it, probably nice if I had that every single day, but my anxiety level will just drop. And I remember thinking, if I owned 2 or 3 offices, if I wanted to be more of an entrepreneur and not do as much clinical dentistry, that's what I'd want from my offices. Every day, I just want to see the numbers. And so it also vetted them where I knew that they were great and I trusted them, but I've learned in dentistry, you have to trust but verify for everything. There's a lot of companies that will take your money, but that won't produce for you. And those reports, I literally knew every call that was coming in, every transaction that was posted, when if they had a parent that wasn't so happy about something, they'd put notations in, and I'd get those every single day. And that just allowed me to focus on the things that I need to do as a clinician and not worry about if the light bill was going to get paid or, the insurances were actually sending us money. Because at that time, even today, insurance just decides to stop paying sometimes for a month just because they want to. But that level of tracking was incredible. I fully believe in using outside resources if you know they're really good. The days of wanting this huge staff and managing everybody, that's kind of a pipe dream. I mean, if you had an unlimited amount of employees, great. I love building a team and team dynamics, but I don't have the time for that. And what it costs now, a lot of dentists don't realize that $25 an hour you're paying your employee, it's not $25 an hour. Add your payroll taxes in, add your 401k, add your 5 days of PTO sick time you have to give in California, and you can add often 16, 17% to that, right? And you don't know if you're even going to get anything out of that. You may train someone for 2 months and then they decide to move and they're gone. I would really think about when you're scaling, you need to have all these things in place, and having an outside team that you can build that has redundancy built in it. So I really would look at when you're going to scale up, how do you want to do that? You need resources. You're the owner, you're the dentist, you need to be in the chair treating patients. You don't need to be going through AR reports or looking through your recalls and trying to figure out if phone calls are actually being made. I would hire a service like Swiss Monkey, and they're just going to do all this for you and hand you reports. I think one of the things that have always impressed me about Swiss Monkey and Christine is I have 3 girls. I always like to see women run businesses because, as we all know, a lot of dentistry for many years has been kind of a male-dominated field, and I just appreciate how Christine is, hustling and building her brand and building all the things that Swiss Monkey offer. It just makes me happy to see her grow her business and do a nice job, provide that service. I believe in her company, and I think offering just an amazing service for dentistry as a whole.